It's that time of the year again. Tonight, President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver his State of the Nation address. But this year, there will be no pomp and ceremony nor endless points of order. Instead, there will be lots of talk about the economy and probably vaccines. Speaking of which, we also tell you why the bad news about our vaccine rollout isn't really that bad. And we're loving Miss SA's mindfulness campaign. Plus, we dish the tea on that political tea party. Enjoy this week's edition of The Wrap. In our big story this week, as you're reading this or listening to this, President Cyril Ramaphosa will be getting ready to deliver the annual State of the Nation address. This year, the speech is being delivered virtually due to COVID-19. It's a speech usually filled with promises and a report back on what the government has achieved in the last 12 months. And what a year it's been for Ramaphosa. Since the last State of the Nation address, a pandemic has ravaged the globe, throwing SA's economy into a tailspin and causing thousands of deaths. So what can we expect from the president this year? Well, City Press says that Ramaphosa is likely to map out an economic recovery program. He'll also talk about trade on the African continent, as an important continental trade agreement came into force on the 1st of January, and the state of municipalities with the local government elections coming up. Ramaphosa will also update us about the rollout of SA's COVID-19 vaccine. Now, Business Day reports that Ramaphosa must decide whether to extend the 350 Rand social grant, a vital safety net for the poor, who have been especially hard hit by the pandemic. He must also account for the 500 billion Rand COVID-19 response plan he announced in April last year. Ramaphosa made many promises last February, which have sometimes understandably been put on the back burner thanks to the pandemic, Daily Maverick reports. But he has made progress in the fight against gender-based violence, putting in place a national strategic plan and bringing the corporate sector on board. The proof will be in the pudding when the numbers come down, Daily Maverick's Cyril Ramaphosa says, but Ramaphosa can be credited with making this fight a priority. And if you're the type who tunes in every year for the drama, usually caused by the EFF interrupting the president and staging a walkout, you'll be disappointed this time. Since most parliamentarians will be present on Zoom, Ramaphosa is guaranteed to be able to actually finish his speech this year without getting heckled. Good luck, Mr. President. Now, there was great concern when the government said rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine, due to be given to healthcare workers, had to be put on hold. It emerged that the vaccine is less effective against mild to moderate cases of COVID, or the COVID variant rather that's present in SA. We don't know if it's effective against serious illness because severely ill people haven't been studied yet. But the World Health Organization said this week that the vaccine shouldn't be written off. It could still prevent serious illness. It was also disappointing to hear that the AstraZeneca vaccine expires in April, but that's not set in stone and will probably change when more data is available, as Becky Cisa reports. The good news is that the government plans to pivot to use the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to vaccinate healthcare workers, Business Day reports. It's shown to be effective against the new variant. Government has already bought 20 million Pfizer doses, which will arrive between April and June, and another 117,000 will arrive later this year via the COVAX scheme. The government had already secured 9 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Plans are afoot to get 20 million more doses, according to the Daily Maverick. The vaccine must still be approved by the pharmaceutical regulator. Now, while that happens, it can be approved as an emergency measure for research purposes. Health Minister William Kize said healthcare workers are not being used as guinea pigs. We already know the vaccine works. We just need as much data as possible. So, while the AstraZeneca situation is a setback, it isn't all doom and gloom. Our scientists are some of the world's best infectious diseases specialists, and they know what they're doing. They've made data available from local trials, so our policy decisions are based in fact, not speculation. Scientists are also in discussions with other vaccine producers as more vaccines come on the market. And if you're wondering how SA is going to afford its vaccine rollout, don't panic. City Press reports that the government has at least 45 billion Rand to spare because of higher than expected tax revenues this year. As more data emerges, we'll know more about which vaccines work for the variant and variants to come. But we can rest assured, SA will get its vaccines. Now, amidst daily reports of corruption, it's easy to feel like SA's authorities are not doing enough. But that's not entirely true. The Special Investigating Unit, or SIU, a government body headed by Advocate Andy Motibi, has spent much of the past year quietly going after PPE tender crooks. The SIU investigates corruption, reclaims misspent or wasted money for the state, and refers cases for prosecution. It's slow, difficult work that often goes unnoticed. Last week, the SIU released a report into its PPE investigation. It looked into 1,774 service providers, painstakingly trawling through reams of paperwork and interviewing witnesses, the Daily Maverick reports. It's a tough job. Some evidence, phones, computers, and documents were reportedly destroyed, while SIU investigators were also threatened. More than 127 million rand has been recovered, and another 160 million rand is set to be recovered. That money goes back to the SA Fiscus and can be spent on schools and healthcare. While the scale of PPE corruption is eye-watering, and remember this has happened all over the world, it's a relief to know that Motibi and his team are on the case. Not since the great pineapple on pizza debate of the 21st century has there been a food combination controversy quite like this. Weet-Bix this week tweeted a picture of the cereal covered in Heinz baked beans, captioned, "Serving up Heinz beans on Bix for breakfast with a twist." Clearly picking up on the collective retching sound coming from all over the globe, several brands chimed in about their distaste. Nando's responded, "You okay, hun? Our DMs are open if you need to talk," while KFC offered to put its differences with Nando's aside to prosecute Weet-Bix under the Geneva Convention. It was downhill from there. Specsavers saved a picture of the pair of glasses covered in baked beans with the caption, "If you can't beat them, join them." Oh, our poor eyes. It may be time to bid farewell to Rihanna's luxury fashion line, Fenty. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and Rihanna have decided to shut down operations at the Fenty fashion house indefinitely until there are better conditions, according to a statement. COVID travel restrictions meant Rihanna was unable to travel to Paris, where the brand is housed, and what is Fenty without Rihanna's personal touch? Elle magazine speculates that the luxury brand was too expensive for Rihanna's audience. These lines will still be available everywhere, apart from Africa. Sigh. That's her beauty line, Fenty Skin, that is. Now, when Miss SA, Shudufadzo Musida, was crowned, she promised mental health would be among her reign's key focuses. This week, Musida launched #Mindful Mondays, a partnership with the SA Depression and Anxiety Group. She plans to encourage conversations about mental health by bringing in experts and hosting discussions on her Instagram page. Musida said there was a profound need to raise awareness about mental health, and we couldn't agree more. Her campaign kicks off on 15 Feb with a talk on teen suicide prevention, and we'll definitely be tuning in. Now, it's no wonder that many people, including Explain, photoshopped a picture of Bernie Sanders into the image that was released of Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema having tea. We all wanted to be a fly on the wall and get the inside scoop. Well, it appears the intrepid reporters from City Press have done just that. The newspaper reported that the meeting was all about trying to get at President Cyril Ramaphosa. Apparently, Malema told Zuma that he should appear before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which he has refused to do, but not because it is the lawful thing to do. If Zuma does this, Malema reportedly argued, it would help to expose the Commission's so-called bias towards him. Reportedly, Malema promised to help Zuma oust Ramaphosa if he cooperates with the Commission, which has been poking around in the EFF's bank accounts. Ironically, the meeting happened at Zuma's Nkandla home. Once upon a time, of course, the EFF went to court to get Zuma to pay back the money spent on upgrading his home. Ah, politics, no permanent friends nor enemies, just tea, apparently. Now, the United Nations has warned of a dire lack of food in Ethiopia's Tigray region, raising fears of famine. UN officials have only recently been allowed into the area to deliver food aid, but Al Jazeera reports that not enough food has arrived. This follows fighting between the Ethiopian army, reportedly backed by Eritrean forces, and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a political party. The TPLF held an election in the Tigray region in September 2020, one they claim to have won. The Ethiopian government said the election was illegal, a move that observers worry is an attempt by Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy, a Nobel Peace Prize winner no less, to consolidate his power ahead of the general election scheduled for June this year. The government dispatched troops to the Tigray area last year, and the region has reportedly been cut off from medical supplies and electricity. The Red Cross says at least 80% of the region has been cut off from humanitarian supplies. Ethiopia's stability is crucial, not just for its own people, but for the whole Horn of Africa region, which is home to around 115 million people. Hopefully a peaceful solution is possible, and soon. DJs Euphonic and Fresh have been sacked from broadcaster Prime Media over rape allegations. Prime Media, the company which owns stations 947, Talk Radio 702, Cape Talk and EWN, said in a statement this week that the two had been released from their contracts. However, the company said this wasn't a reflection on whether the pair was guilty. It was strictly a business decision. Fresh and Euphonic maintain their innocence, said this week they would continue with their public engagements. The duo have been charged with rape after they allegedly drugged and raped a woman at a party in 2011. Some call it cancel culture, some call it consequences. Either way, we hope the truth will out. Now, Donald Trump's Twitter ban is final, even if he runs for president again, the social media site confirmed this week. Twitter banned the former US president after his supporters stormed the US's seat of government, Capitol Hill, on 6 January. Trump is on trial in the US Senate, which is like our parliament, over allegedly inciting the 6 January violence. He was impeached in October last year. If Trump is found guilty, he may be banned from ever running for president again, although his daughter Ivanka might try to, according to Vanity Fair. Trump's trial opened this week with haunting footage of protesters running riot, assaulting police officers, and calling for Vice President Mike Pence to be hanged, the New York Times reported. US law gives its citizens broad freedom of speech rights, something which could work in Trump's favor. But some lawyers reportedly believe this doesn't apply because the impeachment trial is actually about abuse of power. We can't imagine how annoyed Trump must be right now. At least he can't tweet about it. Now, if you were a Martian astronomer, okay, stay with us, you'd have noticed two strange new objects in the sky this week. Spacecrafts from China and the United Arab Emirates went into orbit around the red planet. The Chinese craft Tianwen-1 left Earth last July, the New York Times reports. China plans to land the probe on Mars in May to examine a crater to see if there's ice there that could support a human mission. Meanwhile, the UAE craft called Hope plans to study weather systems in Mars's atmosphere. Next week, a US probe called Perseverance will land on Mars to study a dried-up lake, which scientists believe could contain fossils of ancient microbes. All three countries are deservedly proud of these achievements, but the UAE is taking boasting to another level. Travelers to the Emirates can, for a limited time, get a passport stamp commemorating the Mars mission, stamped with Martian ink. Again, stay with us. The ink is actually from volcanic rocks found in the UAE's deserts. It's the same stuff that gives Mars its red color. At the rate things are going, could Martian ink be a real thing one day? If you lived anywhere in the east of the country, you're probably sick of moldy laundry and roads being washed away. But heavy rains over the past few weeks have been a lifesaver for the country's farmers, who have not only suffered due to the pandemic and lockdown, but also because of lower than normal rain levels over the last few years, the Sunday Times reports. The rains will bring bumper harvests for many farmers, creating jobs and increasing our exports. Now, many of the country's dams are also now either completely full or even overflowing, and the Val Dam reached 100% capacity this week, which is the first time it's done so since 2017. The wet weather has reportedly been driven by the La Nina weather system, which brought along with it Tropical Storm Eloise. It wreaked havoc in parts of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal. Gauteng was a bit luckier, although the potholes are the size of small swimming pools, causing drivers all over the province to invest in scuba gear. That's it from us at The Wrap, a product of explain.co.za. Now you can remember to share the love and tell your friends to subscribe for these updates at explain.co.za/subscribe. Bye for now.